现在讲一句，你们没有资格在中国的面前说你们从实力的地位出发同中国谈话。
So let me say here that in front of the Chinese side, the United States does not have the qualification to say that it wants to speak to China from a position of strength.
We don't have the authority to speak to China from a position of strength. There you have it, my friends. Less than 2 months into the Biden administration, and the world is turned upside down. I'm Sebastian Gorka. This is America First on the Salem Radio Network. From the vantage point of a former deputy, former strategist to the president, as an individual who's been involved with national security affairs since 1991, I never believed that in the space of less than 60 days, the world could change so radically for the worse. In the last 48 hours, a former KGB colonel who rules Russia with a hand of iron, a nation with 11 time zones, with the second largest nuclear battery in the world, has challenged our president, a senile individual who just today fell 3 times in the space of a couple of seconds trying to climb the steps onto Air Force One. He challenged that man to a live debate. What is the response? This is the response. Crickets. Why? Because that man is incompetent. Because the floor would be wiped with Joe Biden by Vladimir Putin. The Kremlin is laughing in our faces. Not something they did when my boss was in the Oval Office. And then we have the audio you just heard. I'm grateful that it was filmed on U.S. territory, the most shocking of all, at the Alaska summit between the U.S. government, the administration of Joe Biden, and the leaders of the Chinese delegation from the biggest communist dictatorship in the world. Antony Blinken, our chief diplomat, blathered his way through the left-wing, politically correct, virtue-signaling snowflake talking points until a seasoned Chinese diplomat utterly destroyed him using Democrat talking points, quoting back to the U.S. delegation. Well, I'm sorry. You're a racist country. You're racially divided. You have problems like Black Lives Matter. Everything the Democrats have tried to convince you is a problem with America was loaded into the barrel of that delegation's machine gun and rhetorically fired fully automatically into the face of that beta male cuckold who is Antony Blinken. And he sat there with a woman next to him in his delegation who has purple hair. I'm not joking. And according to the rumors, irony of irony, in just the last few hours, it has been reported that Beijing Biden in the White House was irate and screamed at Antony Blinken when he saw the video of the U.S. delegation at the Alaska summit with him at the head of the delegation and a woman with purple hair seated next to him. This is what the face of America has become. Whether it's Iran, just 2 days ago, unveiling new rocket launching pads at one of its facilities. Whether it's the KGB colonel making an invitation to our president that he will never, ever be able to accept because he is physically and mentally incapable, or whether it is our diplomatic corps being made to look like a bunch of rank amateurs from a high school glee production. We're not 4 years into the second Biden term. There never will be a second Biden term given what he did on the steps walking up the Air Force One today. I doubt there'll be a second year of a first Biden term. But this is the 60th day. And our adversaries, and I don't mean just adversaries, I mean our enemies, have taken a measure of us and they have found us to be wanting. And we will return inexorably, rapidly, to exactly where we were for the 8 years of the Obama administration. When that man, who likewise was shaped, bouncing on the knee of an avowed communist, to believe that America is the problem, is the neo-colonialist problem. That man, when he became our first black president, went on an apology tour. He traveled the world emboldening our enemies, helping the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, destabilizing countries like Libya and Syria until ISIS returned for the first time ever in more than 6 centuries to establish a caliphate in the Middle East where Jews and Christians and apostates were beheaded on camera. America was weak. America was feckless. America was laughed at. And the whole world suffered. You don't have to have a Republican president, but you need to have a strong president. When we have leadership coming out of the White House, the world is a safer place for republics and democracies. When Chinese diplomats throw Democrat talking points back in the face of the American Secretary of Defense, we are living in dangerous times. When Iran, the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world, is just waiting for Obama's disastrous JCPOA Iran deal to be re-inked and for the billions of dollars to flow again, it is a dangerous time. And when Russia realizes that their Potemkin leader is far tougher, is far more serious an individual than the man in the Oval Office, it is dangerous times. America is the greatest nation on God's earth. But that requires that our leaders believe it too. And right now, that is not the case. I'm Sebastian Gorka, former strategist to President Trump, author of The War for America's Soul, and we have quite the show for you today. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, don't touch that dial.